Tar Heel Talk, an in-depth look at the issues and people making news in North Carolina. Here's your host, Sonia Williams.
Studies show 400,000 children are sexually abused each year. That means 1 in 10 children faces sexual abuse in the U.S. 90% of these victims are abused by someone they know and trust. And today's guest knows firsthand the devastation of sexual abuse and that it can have on a child. In fact, she's written a book about her personal experience with abuse entitled He Heard My Cry. She's also founded a nonprofit organization to support children who have been sexually abused called Helping Children Heal. And joining me now is Donnie Hedgepeth. Donnie, welcome to Tar Heel Talk.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
In your book, He Heard My Cry, you talk about your personal experience of being sexually abused at the early age of 4.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about your experience.
Since it happened at the age of 4, I was really confused because the people that I was being abused by were people that said they loved me. And so growing up, I didn't really know what love was. I felt lost because when I tried to speak out, nothing was done to protect me. Instead, I was being punished. So growing up as a child, I didn't know who to talk to or how to reach out for help. Mm-hmm. And it was pretty horrific.
And you were sexually abused by your stepfather, and you talk about when you tried to speak out, you were trying to talk to your mother. Talk a little bit about, because I think that there is an important message both for children and for parents in this and in your experience about how difficult it was and what you faced when trying to talk to your mother about this.
Yes, my stepfather, he was one of my abusers, and when I spoke out, each time I spoke out when I was very young, my mother was angry, and there were times that she spanked me. So what was happening is it was validating what my stepfather was saying. If I told my mom, that she would get angry with me and she would stop loving me. Mm. So getting a spanking to me confirmed that she was angry. And in my mind, I felt like she didn't love me. So I didn't have a problem talking to her about it, but her not doing anything, it was making me feel like it was my fault, and it was continuing to allow him to be able to sexually abuse me. So the perpetrator wasn't dealt with, but the victim was. And eventually, I didn't want to get a spanking. I didn't want her angry with me. So eventually, I just stopped talking, and I shut down. I never thought to talk to someone outside of the home because my mother is who I trusted. And I felt like if my mother doesn't believe me, who else is going to believe me? And then there was another man sexually abusing me who was also a relative. And that was an uncle through marriage. He was saying, if you tell someone, some people are going to come take you away. And your mother's not going to love you anymore. So I didn't want my mom to stop loving me.
Right. And that's what a lot of perpetrators will do, is to use fear tactics and threats to keep their victims silent.
Exactly, exactly.
When you, because this abuse continued for several years, at what point did it stop? And then how did you move forward after that?
For me, the abuse stopped between the age of 9 and 10. Okay. The actual physical aspect of it. And my stepfather asked me a question. And the question was, did I want him to show me how babies were made? I didn't know anything about that, but it didn't sit well with me. And so I would stay away from him. But he continued to watch me. I would, catch him in my room, sometimes at night. My uncle, he continued to, try to abuse me as well. And so there were parts of it like the nun touching, because you have different types of sexual abuse. Right. You have touching and you have nun touching. So the nun touching continued even into my teenage years. Yes.
So talk a little bit about the book and why you decided to write this book and to really share a very private and difficult subject to discuss.
The reason I wrote the book is I had suppressed my past, and I was an adult. I was actually 33 years old.
Oh, wow.
When I started writing the book, but some way I learned how to pack down my pain and go on with my life, so I thought. And one day I heard a story about some little girls, and they were being put on the street for prostitution, and some of them were 5 years old. What happened was it resurfaced my pain, and I knew firsthand what it feels like to have your body violated. And for those little girls, I cried, I prayed, and I went home. That story stayed with me that day, and I just cried out to God. And instead of doing what I would do in the past, is getting angry and suffering in silence, I wanted to do something for the little girls. And I asked God, what can I do? What can I do? And about 48 hours later, God led me to write. When I started writing, I didn't know what I was writing. And when I stopped, I realized I was writing about my own past. And that's the first time in my life that I had written in detail what was happening to me as a child. And during that time, I realized that I had healed because I wasn't angry. I was doing it for the little girls. I wasn't thinking, I want to hurt somebody. It was, wow, God, you helped me find my voice. And I continued to write. So that's where He heard my cry came from.
And throughout the process of writing this book, you have also founded a nonprofit organization helping children heal. Talk a little bit about the organization and its mission.
Okay. Helping Children Heal, it raises awareness of child sexual abuse and encourages children to speak out. And what we do is we educate children on child sexual abuse. We provide them with resources that are available, and we let them know your voice matters, because 26 years of my life has been affected by what happened to me as a child. And the thought of other children going through that doesn't sit well with me. So writing the book is where God revealed to me that I would also reach out and help children, because a lot of times society doesn't want to talk about child sexual abuse, or it's nested in child abuse. But this is happening more and more than people want to realize. And if I had someone that told me about it or let me know it's okay to talk about it, it wouldn't have affected me for 26 years of my life. I could have healed much sooner.
Right. And it could have been stopped a lot sooner as well.
Exactly.
So how can people find out more information about Helping Children Heal?
They can visit our website at helpingchildrenheal.org, or they can call 919-295-0381.
And you talk about in the book the years that you experienced sexual abuse from family members, people who were supposed to love you and who you trusted initially. What is your relationship like? I know that your uncle has since passed away, but what is your relationship like now, today, with your stepfather?
With my stepfather, there is no relationship. My stepfather and my mother, they are still together. And my stepfather, I've forgiven him. I've forgiven my mother. I had to. God tells us, in order for God to forgive us of our sins, we also have to be willing to forgive others. And that's another way I knew that I healed. But with my family, we've had conversations about it since the book was published. And but I had to come to a place to understand it's okay if I don't want to talk to him anymore. I don't owe him anything. He violated me. And my mother, she and I, we talk, but we're not as close as most mothers and daughters would be. She is my mother. and I've forgiven her, but I don't go visit. Because they are still together, I may show up at a place and he's there. I'm cordial, but there's no relationship between he and I.
But you've done a lot of healing over the years to even get to that point. We want to talk more about that in this next segment, but right now we're going to take a break.
Okay.
All right. We'll continue our conversation with author Donnie Hedgepeth after these messages. Studies show 1 in 10 children are sexually abused each year, and that 90% are abused by people they trust and they know. Today's guest has written a book about her personal experience with sexual abuse entitled He Heard My Cry. Donnie Hedgepeth is also the founder of an organization to support children who have been sexually abused called Helping Children Heal. And Donnie, before the break, you shared a little bit of the mission of Helping Children Heal. And in the book, you talk about healing and the process. You go step by step with people on helping them heal from such a painful event or events. Talk a little bit about that process and some of the steps that are necessary to heal.
Okay. One thing that's important for victims of child sexual abuse, you have to accept that it happened to you. Instead of trying to ignore it, accept it, because it's like a virus and it spreads within you and it affects you, it affects people around you. So it's you need to accept. Another thing, don't blame yourself for it. It wasn't your fault, because a lot of times you wonder, what did I do wrong? Why did they touch me? Why did they hurt me? And sometimes you want to hear 2 words, I'm sorry. But you may never hear I'm sorry. And it's okay. Don't let that abuse keep you in bondage because you never heard I'm sorry. And love yourself. That was very hard for me. People used to tell me that I was pretty. And as a little girl, I used to look at myself in the mirror and say, well, if I'm so pretty, why are they doing this to me? Why are people touching me like this? But beauty is not necessarily all on the outside. Right. It's on the inside as well. So you have to learn to love yourself. And speaking from my own personal experience, it was hard for me to have other people love me when I was struggling with loving myself. So yes.
I know that's an important point. You talk about loving yourself and just being able to forgive, the power of forgiveness. A lot will go into moving forward from any type of abuse, but particularly sexual abuse as a child. When you think about all that you went through and the family that you, with your mother, trying to share that with her, hindsight, of course, is 2020. Are there any tips you can share with parents on, how to approach the subject of abuse or appropriate and inappropriate touching? I know that that's something that, parents try to teach their children, but how do you do that in an age-appropriate way? And when do you start?
Actually, it's not ages 3 or 4. That's a good time to start. Okay. Because I was touched at 4. I don't know if my mother was telling me that early, but I knew the first time he touched me, he wasn't supposed to touch me. Right. And I
felt
bit him.
That.
Right.
So that was wrong.
We wait until our children are older, but a lot of children are being molested at a younger age. With my children, I started early. It's just like when you teach them their eyes and their nose. You teach them early, and there are resources that are available. You can get books. There are books for as young as 2 that will help walk you through how to communicate this with your child. And then you gradually continue the conversation, because what you're doing is you're building an open communication with your child, letting your child know it's okay to talk about this. These are areas that people cannot touch, and if they do, this is what you do. So families need to become more and more comfortable talking about this topic, and that's why Helping Children Heal is here to help.
Right. And I guess for parents to even have that conversation, they need to go through a bit of education themselves. And I think an important point and something that would have been instrumental in your life is just having a safe space, having someone who believes you and wants to help.
Yes, you're exactly right. And that Darkness to Light has a training that's called Stewards of Children Training. And the YMCA of the Triangle hosts this training. And this is prevention of child sexual abuse for adults. So I'm an authorized facilitator, and I also facilitate sessions for adults. During this training session, we teach them the 5 steps of how to recognize child sexual abuse. You know, what do you do when someone discloses this? It's a great training. And that's a way that adults can become educated and aware of child sexual abuse.
What are some of those steps in recognizing child sexual abuse?
Talk about it. So many people don't want to talk about it. Recognizing the signs, you know, the signs, they vary. You can have a child that's an overachiever, or you can have a child that's very isolated. There isn't one particular sign for each victim of child sexual abuse, but those are things that they would learn if they attend the Stewards of Children training.
And as you said, it's important to know your child. Any drastic change in behavior, whether it is for them to retreat and be quiet or to be overly talkative, any drastic changes could definitely be a sign. Tell us again how people can find out more information about Helping Children Heal and maybe connect with you for some training.
Okay, they can visit the website at helpingchildrenheal.org, or they can call us at 919-295-0138.
As you look back over your experience and sharing this experience with the public, what type of impact has that had on you personally and the way that you're raising your daughters?
Actually, being able to open up and talk about it, it's fulfilling for me, because a lot of times people will email me or call me, and they're adults, and they're saying that they experienced that as a child. So just knowing that there's a voice, I didn't find my voice when I was younger, but thank God I found it now. And now that God has shown me the one thing that the devil tried to use to destroy me, God is using to get the glory out of my life. So if I can save one person, if I can help one person heal from it, so they can go on, so they can be free, that's my purpose here has been fulfilled.
Absolutely. Yes. We're going to take another break. We'll talk more in just a minute. Still to come on Tar Heel Talk, what you can do to help prevent child sexual abuse. We'll explain when Tar Heel Talk continues. Welcome back to Tar Heel Talk. I'm Sonia Williams. Studies show 1 in 10 children are sexually abused each year, and that 90% of the victims are abused by someone they know and trust. Our guest today is discussing her book, which highlights her personal experience with child sexual abuse. Donnie Hedgepeth is the author of He Heard My Cry. She's also the founder of Helping Children Heal, a nonprofit organization designed to raise awareness about child sexual abuse and to provide support to victims and their families. So Donnie, you have been talking about some of the signs of, possible signs of child abuse. I want to talk now a little bit about Helping Children Heal and the organization that you have. You have been traveling throughout the community and speaking to adults about child sexual abuse. Talk a
Yes.
little bit about your involvement in the community and where you would like to see those efforts go moving forward.
Okay, in the community, I've had several meetings with the Raleigh Police Department, with the Juvenile Justice Division, Interact, Salvation Army. I've been going to different organizations throughout the community that work with children. And what I need from the community is opportunities. I'll go to churches, wherever there are children, I'm willing to speak. I can also do presentations for age-appropriate presentations for children, because the younger children is one type of presentation at their level versus adolescents. You would present in a different way for an adolescent. I'm also available to do speaking engagements at women's centers, women retreats. I'm willing to go out into the community. The children don't come to me. I go to the children and we present to the children. Yes.
It really is a community effort to try to help prevent child sexual abuse. I think because it is such a sensitive topic and so difficult for people to talk about, especially when it happens within their own families, that sometimes those resources are not connected with the victims because no one's talking.
Exactly, and that's why we're here to, let the adults know what resources are here. Look at Helping Children Heal as a support system. If they don't know, ask, and we're there to help, because this is something that we have to embrace as a community so we can stop it from happening to our children. If we don't protect our children, who will?
Absolutely.
And what you don't want is you don't want the perpetrator to educate your child on child sexual abuse. The goal for Helping Children Heal is to be proactive, not reactive. Because when we hear it after it has happened, it's all over the media. But we want to get a jump start and educate our babies.
Absolutely, and help them protect themselves and know that we are a resource for that protection as well.
Yes.
Again, how can people connect with you through Helping Children Heal?
By visiting our website at helpingchildrenheal.org.
Okay, and they can also call 919-295-0381 and connect with you in that way. Again, you are available for speaking engagements throughout the community, and I know it is your passion to talk with our children
Yes.
about this issue, and really then to just educate parents as well, because I think sometimes it can be difficult for parents to hear
Yes.
and then to know the appropriate ways to react, to respond.
And I think it's important that parents understand the earlier you heal, the sooner you can go on and live your life and survive and thrive.
Absolutely. Now that you have shared your experience and your book with the public, what is on the horizon for you? How are things looking for you and your family?
For me and my family is very supportive. I've been blessed with 2 daughters, and they're always cheering me on. I want to see this go worldwide, not just locally. This is just the beginning. Like I said earlier, I found my voice, and I'm going to take a stand because our children deserve to be protected.
Absolutely. Any final advice? There may be someone watching today who can relate to your personal experience and say, I'm ready to heal, I'm ready to move forward. Or it could be someone who's saying, I think I might need some help. There may be some inappropriate things going on. What advice would you share with them?
For the person who's ready to heal, start talking, seek counseling, and take it day by day, step by step. Healing is not going to happen just in one time. Each time I talk, I'm still healing. And for the one who think there may be something going on, they can reach out to me. They can email me. They can visit the website, and I'll be more than happy to help them.
And again, that website is helpingchildrenheal.org, or they can call you. They connect with you on the phone by calling 919-295 0381.
That's right.
Lots of ways to connect with you. Donnie Hedgepeth, thank you so much for sharing your personal story and for helping our children heal all across the area.
Thank you.
That's it for this week's Tar Heel Talk. I'm Sonia Williams. To comment on this or other episodes of the show, send us a message or connect with us on Facebook. Thanks so much for watching. Enjoy your week.